So I wanted to talk about behavior, specifically like habits and um, patterns. Right. So there's a quote I really like, and it's just a question, and it says, "Do your patterns of behavior serve you, or do you serve them?" So obviously, we're all familiar with like addiction or bad habits. These are things that we tend to um, cater towards, or will our lives will kind of somehow in some way be affected by these behaviors, right? So there's like the obvious ones, like you can get addicted to drugs, you can get addicted to um, watching TV, lust, gluttony, sloth, like many of the deadly sins, things like that, right? You can get addicted to a lot of these things, and everyone knows they're bad. And this isn't really like a foreign concept that you probably haven't thought about before. But today, more so, what I want to talk about is the good patterns of behavior. Um, so there's I really think that a man has as many masters as he does vices. When I say master, I'm kind of using it in the term of like slavery. So your master doesn't have to be a person; it can be a thing. It could be a habit, right? Because you essentially are um, responding and acting in a way that benefits them at all time, not at all times, but in general, right? So I think we can all agree that working out and going to the gym is good. It could definitely be something really beneficial, but there are a lot of people, especially a lot of young men around my age, some of them that I even know, that they turn it into a vice. Like they're like, oh, I can't control anything during my day, so I go to the gym because that's the one thing I can control, and I just try to destroy my body and rebuild it and build it back stronger. And in most cases, it's a good thing. I go to the gym, I try to be fit and be active, but um, for some people, they kind of are using it as an escape to the world, and they will go to the gym and like legitimately look forward to going to the gym because they want that time to sort of escape and stuff like that. Now, although that's not the case for me, we all have our own things, right? Like me, I really like to isolate myself and just listen to music, but sometimes it goes overkill. But let's just take this example that I'm running with, the person who's going to the gym, right? The thing is that the gym no longer becomes very healthy, and obviously you're receiving the physical benefits, but uh, it's almost like a cop out mentally for the problems going on in your life. Because let's say you become, um, you know, in some way, shape, or form paralyzed, or you're disabled and you can no longer work out like that. Like, what would you do, right? You have to adjust. um and so I think it's definitely a question of whether or not these certain behaviors, these patterns, are serving you like we all think they are, or whether or not we're serving them. So in the past, I when I was 18 going on to 19 was when I first got into self improvement, and kind of wanted to rebuild my life and become a stronger person. And I think a lot of young men around the same age as me, they were starting to do the same thing. This is around the time where it became super popular on social media. You have people like David Goggins, who are, motivational speakers. You had like Joe Rogan pushing for like, MMA, and just different people on the internet. And I think young men like really, really clung on to that. And me, although I never like really got caught up in it, it was something that I would still look at um, somewhat frequently. But the reason I'm mentioning this story is because I, in many aspects of my life, went like super hardcore on trying to be better. So I went from never, I mean, I had worked out when I was in high school, but only when I was in my strength and conditioning class. But other than that, I never just like hit a weight room. And I remember right when I went to college, I made a goal for myself. I was going to go to the gym, start going to the gym. But what happened was I got in the gym. I started going like 6 hours a day, which is way more than you need. Like if you're watching this video, you do not need to go to the gym that many hours in a day. And I went every single day. And I did this for over 200 days. I did like 260 something days straight. And this was like from the very first time I went in the gym, kept doing it. Like I would skip my classes to go to the gym. And then I was super, super skinny. And so I would go and eat a bunch of food at the buffet, and I was starting to gain weight like a lot. And long story short, that freshman year I gained like over 80 pounds, and I was not fat. Like I was not fat. I became very muscular. I was eating like a bunch of chicken, all this stuff. Like I had scars on my body. Like my skin was like couldn't keep up with the growth. Like it was a whole thing. And I remember like my dad turned to me and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Am I okay? Like I'm more than okay. You know, I've like improved so much. Like I can, bench like over my body weight, and I can do like squat this and do all that." And he's like, "Yeah, but like it seems like it's obsessive to the point where it's controlling you." And then I really like thought about it. I was like, is that true? Um, and I realized that it was true. Like I was literally skipping class in college that I was paying all this money to go to because I wanted to hit the gym instead. Now, I don't necessarily regret skipping class, but I do regret skipping class for the sole purpose of just going to the gym and kind of justifying that in my head. Um, and what I realized looking back was like I was so intense about it, and I was so intense about the way I was eating, and I was so intense about what I was eating, and I was intense about like all these different things. And then I realized even these good patterns I started to become a slave to. And so sometimes you have to take a step back and really look at your situation and ask yourself, even if you're doing something good, um, sometimes we just do things because we almost want to justify in our own heads, like that we're a productive person, or that like what we're doing matters, or we're like improving. But sometimes it's really just like a cope for whatever we have going on in our lives, and we want to act like we somehow have control, or somehow are improving our lives as opposed to staying the same or declining. um you know for me, like I really realized that, and I look back and I was like, why was I going to the gym for 6 hours? That doesn't even make sense, and that's not even optimal for muscle growth. Like it was just insane. And I think a lot of people watching this, you might have your own thing, but like it could even be I was obsessive with like reading books. Like I made it a goal to read a book a week when I started high school. And every single week of my entire high school career, I read one book a week, even during COVID. Um, like everything. And I was so obsessive about it to where like I would stay up some nights on a Sunday night, because that was the end of the week, and I would have to stay up like until like 3 4 in the morning to try to finish a book. And it was like almost like OCD, where it was like I needed to do it. But then like looking back, I was like, first off, I was miserable the whole time, even though like the habits that I were doing were good. I realized I was serving them; they weren't really serving me. Although like certainly reading benefits you, I was, all things included, I was at a net negative, because like I was obsessing and like focusing on exact how to exactly read all these books. And like, dude, I don't even remember any of those books really. Like if you ask me, like, tell me the book, a little bit about what it's about, I could be like, oh yeah, it's that book. But it's not like I apply all this knowledge that I have on a daily basis. um so this begs the question, like, what do you do, if you become um if you start to believe that you've reached that level, because there really is a threshold, and how to determine that threshold is like really your own discretion. Only you're gonna know. But once there is a threshold to where the patterns of behavior are serving you, and then when you're serving them. So I would say when it gets to the point where you're constantly altering like other events that are going on in your day to fit this thing, and it's not something along the lines of like family, it's not something along the lines of like school, that work that might, or regular work that needs to get done. Like if it's like something that you're going to do consistently every day no matter what, um it's not necessarily the best thing. I know so many people. Said this on the channel before. I've worked with a lot of like really wealthy people, and they developed all these habits which made them wealthy, which it's no surprise to any of us. You probably heard that story a million times. All these millionaires are like, oh, I didn't just get rich, I had to work for it, I had to develop habits, I had to be consistent, I had to work hard, blah blah blah. Like we've all heard that. But like I have these friends, and there's one of my friends was like making $300,000 a month, which is insane. That's so much money. That's more money than you're ever going to need. If you can make that for like if you can make that for a couple of years, and then you invest wisely, like you never have to work again, right? But he's been doing that for like he's older than me. He's like in his mid to late 20s. And he was making like 300K every month, so he's making millions and millions of dollars a year, and he's investing it smartly and doing everything. But like every single day you could catch this guy up at like 5 a.m. And I'm like, that's like good and all, but like you have all the money, you basically hit the pinnacle of your life, unless you're going to go do something insane like Elon Musk. And he didn't start his own business, he wasn't doing anything like that. He had a vehicle that made him money, and he wasn't really like aspiring to do anything new. He's just aspiring to grow what he had, and do this whole thing. And I just remember like thinking like, bro, like I'd rather be me right now than you, because even though I don't really have like money like that, and I don't am not in a position where I have a vehicle that's going to make me that money, but like he was constantly working, doing all these things, and his work became like his muse. It became like his vice, and it was like how he justified his existence, and how he sort of quantified like who he was and what he amounted to as a person. And I was like, bro, like you're doing all this stuff, but like if you literally are forcing yourself to get up at the same time every single day and do all the exact same tasks every day, like hit the gym, eat this food, go and do this for work. By the way, what he did for work, I'm not gonna blur out all his business, but it was like super super boring. Like he ran this like sales agency, and they were just like selling like things that nobody cares about. It's just like tedious like tax stuff. Like it was no one could possibly say that they enjoy that job. And so the only reason I mention that is because like this guy, like you just knew what he was doing on a daily basis, like wasn't anything fun, but he was like just fine it. And then, he'll go on like Instagram and stuff, and he's like posting like, he has a really nice car, and he has a beautiful condo up in a skyscraper, like it's like a penthouse type thing. Like he's got all that stuff. He's got, a girl and stuff. But like I know both of them, and I'm kind of not super impressed, because if I asked this guy, hey, you want to do something on like Wednesday at this time, he'd be like, no, man, I gotta work. And so there's obviously honor in work, and I'm not like dissing people that are working super hard, but at the same time, it's like, bro, like you're gonna do this. Like, how long are you planning on doing this for? I asked him that one day at dinner, and he's like, I think I'm gonna take this until I die. Like, this is like what I'm passionate about. And I'm like, bro, you're not even passionate about what you do. You don't even understand that. You're just passionate about avoiding like um the being internal, like internalizing like who you are and all this stuff. Like you're just avoiding that with by shoving like work down your own throat. Like you're constantly doing these, and it's the patterns, they started to no longer serve him, but he had to serve the patterns, right? So it's the opposite. And so, it's something to consider for you guys, because these things, even though they're good, they can start to consume you and become your vice. So you have to be careful with the way that you move. And if you're chasing a dream, it's a little bit different, because the journey and chasing the dream itself can be, your purpose in life. It can be the thing that gets you up in the morning, stuff like that. But you have to be careful that it's what you're pursuing aligns with who you truly are and what you believe, and not the fact that you're pursuing in and of itself. Because just pursuing just so that you can be like, oh, I'm productive, or oh, like I'm making money, like there's more to life than money. There's more to life than what you accomplish in your career, right? So you have to be careful and make sure that you're really like taking the time to analyze like your current situation. Because I was doing this literally for like 2 years, where I would stay up every night until like 3 4 a.m., like eating food to try to hit my macros and like doing all this stuff. But like literally looking back, whole time I was like miserable. And now I go to the gym like 5 6 times a week, and I'll only go to the gym for like 2 hours. So I'm still getting like 10 to 12 like hours a week um, at the gym, and I'll still go hard when I go. But when I come home, it's not the end of the world if I can't get in all of my macros, or like do this, and I feel a lot better, and I look like, it's crazy. I actually look almost actually better than I did when I was doing that and eating all that. Like look like more lean, have more muscle definition. Like it's interesting how it works. Um, and it can be scary just because you're pretty much like exposing yourself to whatever you fear. Sometimes it's subconscious what we fear. We don't even understand exactly what we're trying to avoid. But um, the only way out is through. And so you have to sort of take that on. Otherwise, you're going to spend your whole life um, thinking that what you're doing, these patterns that you're doing, are benefiting you, when in reality, you know, they're doing the exact opposite.